Wake up in the Paleolithic. Welcome to 50,000 years ago. Picture this. You open your eyes to a blinding African sun. The air smells of dust, grass, and something unfamiliar, something animal. The wind brushes against your skin and it hits you. You're naked. No shoes, no clothes, no phone, no fire, no idea where you are. You stand on a dry savanna plain. Scattered trees stretch toward a deep blue sky. Insects buzz. A shadow darts through tall grass. Something watches you. There are no roads, no buildings, no other people, just you. One confused modern human standing in the middle of a world you don't understand. You have no language for the sounds around you. No names for the plants. No instinct for what's safe. You're not in a survival game. There are no retries, no tutorials. This is Earth as it was 50,000 years ago, and it's not here to help you. Welcome to the Upper Paleolithic. Every day, millions of people stream survival shows, documentaries, and fantasy dramas. Where the world is wild and free, they imagine returning to the simple life of our ancestors. Hunting, gathering, exploring untouched forests, sleeping under starlit skies. It sounds peaceful, pure, almost romantic. But the reality, Paleolithic life wasn't peaceful. It wasn't simple. It was brutal, unpredictable, and short. According to the Smithsonian's Human Origins program, our ancestors lived in constant negotiation with danger. They didn't conquer the land. They clung to the edges of survival, adapting to climates, predators, and terrains that were actively trying to erase them. There were no rules, no mercy, no pause button. You've been dropped into this raw existence with one asset. Your brain. The modern human brain is fast, flexible, imaginative. It can solve problems, plan for the future, and adapt to new environments. But brains don't build fires. They don't tan hides, forage roots, or kill leopards. Unless they've been trained to do so. And yours hasn't. You glance down at your soft feet, already tender from stepping on thorny underbrush and sharp pebbles. In the distance, something moves. Not one thing, several. A herd of gazelle? Maybe. But behind them, lurking in the heat waves, something lower to the ground. Cats? Hyenas? You don't know. You weren't trained to know. And that's the problem. Your body, honed for city life, processed foods, air conditioning and office chairs, has been thrust back into a world that requires constant motion, silent observation, and instinctual response. You've never stalked an animal or read cloud patterns to predict weather. You've never followed migrating herds or memorized edible plants by season, by texture, by smell. But they did. Homo sapiens in this era weren't bumbling cave dwellers. They were elite survival machines. Not because of brute strength, but because of collective knowledge passed through generations. How to track, how to build, how to live. You're starting at zero. They were born into it. You take a step. The ground is uneven. Dry grasses crunch beneath your feet. Every plant you pass raises a question. Could you eat this? Is it medicine? Is it poison? The wrong answer means death. And there's no second guess when your stomach is empty and your body is failing. You crouch near a bush, not even knowing if you're being watched. Something is always watching. The Paleolithic world isn't just uncaring, it's predatory. It was shaped by evolution to weed out the slow, the unprepared, the unlucky. And luck is in short supply. But the world around you is not silent. It speaks. The birds in the trees aren't just singing. They're warning. The rustle in the grass isn't random. It's a signal. A Paleolithic human would hear a rhythm, an alert, a pattern. You hear noise. Because your ancestors trained their senses from birth, tracking scents on the wind, animal droppings in the dust, paw prints in the mud. The tiniest details meant life or death. Your eyes, dulled by screens, miss them all. You try to focus. You tell yourself you're smart. You've read books, you've watched survival videos. But books don't give you calloused feet or strong lungs, or the ability to run 10 kilometers before breakfast. You're not just in the wrong time, you're in the wrong body. This isn't an episode of Alone. You don't get a survival kit. There's no emergency signal. There's no crew coming back in 6 weeks. This isn't for entertainment. This is evolution. And nature doesn't care if you're smart. It only cares if you're useful. The Paleolithic wasn't about individual brilliance. It was about collective adaptation. You're not supposed to be alone out here. That's your biggest disadvantage. They survived because they were part of something. Small bands of humans who knew their terrain, remembered migration routes, passed knowledge through stories around the fire. You don't even have fire. And the world is getting darker. Sunset comes faster than you expect. The sky burns gold, then orange, then fades into violet. The temperature drops. Fast. Your body begins to shiver. There's no jacket to zip. No button to click. No low power mode. This is your introduction to the Paleolithic, a place where night is not a break. It's a new enemy. Where cold is not discomfort, it's a killer. Where darkness is not quiet, it's alive. And somewhere nearby, the hyenas are calling. This is not your world. You were never meant to be here alone. Not without training. Not without community, not without time. But for the first time in your life, time isn't on your side. And this is just the beginning. Your modern brain, their brutal world. Your brain is a marvel. It is the product of 300,000 years of evolution, sharpened by firelight, storm, and blood. It dreams in language. It calculates, remembers, reasons. It can write poetry and solve equations. It can imagine entire worlds. But right now, it can't tell you what's edible. It doesn't know which direction the river flows. It can't hear the difference between a bird warning of a snake and one calling for a mate. Your brain is advanced. Brilliant, even. But brilliance without context is as useless as a map with no landmarks. And here, in the Paleolithic wild, your intelligence is all dressed up with nowhere to go. There's a popular myth, the big brain myth, that if we dropped a modern human into the Stone Age, they'd outthink the competition, build a spear in an hour, invent fire by lunchtime, dominate by dinner. After all, we have IQ tests and diplomas, we split atoms, we built the internet. Surely we can handle some berries and bears. But evolution doesn't care how smart you could be. It only rewards what you are right now. And right now, you're clueless. Paleolithic humans weren't primitive. They weren't brutes. They weren't dumb. They were highly specialized survivalists, field-tested by nature, graduates of an education system older than language. Their intelligence wasn't measured in abstract puzzles. It was lived every second of every day. They could spot the faintest animal trail in flattened grass. They knew what season of fruit was safe, which root could calm a fever, and what tree bark cured an upset stomach. They could interpret clouds, winds, scents, the moods of the forest. Your ancestors didn't just live in nature. They read it fluently. You can barely identify your neighbour's tree. You crouch near a plant. You're starving. It has bright berries, waxy leaves. You vaguely remember seeing something like it in a survival show. But was it poisonous or just bitter? One bite might give you calories. It might also paralyze your lungs. But you don't know. And this isn't a quiz. There's no C, all of the above. The Paleolithic world doesn't forgive curiosity. It rewards memory, pattern recognition, caution earned through repetition. And you've never had to earn those things. Anthropologists like Dr. Clint Janilis point out that modern humans raised in urban environments haven't just lost wilderness skills, they've lost wilderness thinking. Hunter-gatherers train from the moment they can walk. A child raised in a foraging tribe will know by age 10 what takes modern bushcraft students a decade to learn. Tracking, edible plants, weather signs, animal behaviour. Their minds are shaped by danger, by necessity. By living every day with the understanding that one wrong move could be the last. Your mind? It's shaped by text messages. Traffic lights, spreadsheets, voice assistants. You don't react, you defer. They adapted to uncertainty, you've adapted to convenience. You might think, I'll figure it out, I'll learn fast. And yes, learning is your superpower. But there's a catch. Learning takes time. And time is not a luxury you have. You're surrounded by threats. Cold seeps in. Hunger claws. Predators circle. Water is a gamble. You don't get months to figure out how to knap flint or identify tubers. You get minutes, hours if you're lucky, days if you're exceptional. And even then, you'll still be years behind the child born into this world. Your brain is fast, but it's fragile. It's built for multitasking. That's a strength in a city. But in the wilderness, distraction is death. The Paleolithic mind was tuned like a stringed instrument, tight, focused, resonant with its environment. Your ancestors didn't zone out, they tuned in, constantly. They had to. Because the moment you stop paying attention, something starts paying attention to you. You hear a growl in the distance. It might be a big cat, it might just be your own stomach. You freeze, run, climb, play dead. You don't know the right answer, and the wrong answer gets written in bones. A Paleolithic child would know. By the sound, by the rhythm, by the tension in the air. You have the raw processing power. But you lack the code. The instinctual software. The data set built over thousands of generations. You're a powerful machine dropped in the middle of an alien OS, and it's not compatible. Still, it's not all bad news. You do have one thing they didn't. You can reflect. You can adapt if you survive long enough. The brain you carry is their brain. It hasn't changed much since they walked this earth. Structurally, neurologically, it's the same machine. The difference isn't the hardware, it's the input. They filled theirs with survival information, where to find water, how to set traps, how to stitch a wound with sinew. You filled yours with song lyrics, fast food menus, and passwords you keep forgetting. It's not your fault that you were shaped by your world just like they were by theirs. But if you want to live in theirs, you have to let go of the belief that intelligence survival. Because out here, it doesn't. You are clever. You are creative. You are curious. But none of that matters unless it leads to action. Quick, correct, instinctive action. Out here, there's no reward for potential. Only for proof. So yes, your brain is extraordinary. It can calculate the stars and compose symphonies. But the Paleolithic doesn't care about that. It only asks one question. Can you survive the next 10 minutes? And right now, your brain doesn't have the answer. Surrounded by predators. You're not at the top of the food chain. Not here, not now. Forget everything you've learned from action movies, motivational posters, and lion tattoos. Out here, courage is a luxury. Strength is relative. And survival isn't about dominance. It's about staying unseen. The Paleolithic savannah is not empty. It is teeming, alive with movement, sound, and scent. You don't see them yet, but they see you. You stand exposed in tall grass, heartbeat thudding in your chest, limbs trembling in the open air. You are naked, soft skin, unarmed. No fur, no claws, no armor, no allies. To the eyes watching from the thicket, you're not a human. You quote Ramit, a rustle, a silence. Then movement, silent, calculated, almost lazy. Hyenas. but not the ones you've seen on TV. Not cartoonish, scavengers laughing at danger. The short-faced hyena Pachyrhocutta brevirostris is extinct now, but in your new reality it's very much alive. And it is the size of a lion. Its jaw is strong enough to crush elephant bones. Its bite, more powerful than a polar bear's. It doesn't fear humans, it hunts them. And it's not alone. There are lions here, but not the ones in glossy documentaries. These are Ice Age lions, Panthera leospelaea, up to 25% larger than today's African lions, with muscular shoulders and bone-breaking teeth. Fast, silent, territorial. And then there's the ghost in the underbrush, the saber-toothed cat, Smilodon fatalis, built low, wide and thick with muscle. It didn't chase, it waited. It didn't roar, it crept. It didn't kill quickly, it made a statement. 2 curved canines longer than your hand. It would take you apart like a butcher working a deer. The moment you stepped into this world, you became prey, a solitary figure against the ancient math of survival. Out here, the laws are older than speech. Smell, stalk, strike. Flee, freeze or fall. And you're still trying to remember what direction you came from. Your ancestors didn't survive because they were tougher. They survived because they paid attention, because they feared correctly, because they ran before they saw. You don't have those instincts. Instead, you rely on logic. You analyze. You hesitate. And hesitation out here is fatal. Imagine you're standing near a watering hole. The air is thick with humidity. Mosquitoes buzz. Your throat is dry. You bend down to drink. And in that exact moment, while your head is low, eyes down, awareness flickering, a predator closes 20 feet in silence. You wouldn't hear it. You wouldn't smell it. You wouldn't know it until the light disappeared from the world. Because by the time you look up, it's already on you. You were taught that humans are dangerous animals. That we tamed fire, conquered the world, became the apex species. That's true, eventually, but not now. Right now you're a walking buffet in a world filled with mouths. You crouch, try to become smaller. You scan the tree line. Every rustle becomes threat. Every bird call a coded message. Your senses, dulled by modern life, are trying to catch up. But they weren't raised for this. They didn't evolve in fear. The Paleolithic brain lived in a state of readiness, always listening, always smelling, always calculating escape. That part of your brain, it's still there. Deep inside, buried under advertisements and app alerts. The amygdala, the limbic core, it's ancient, and now it's waking up. Fight or flight. But here's the ugly truth. Fight isn't an option. Not against something with 4 legs, night vision, and 300 pounds of muscle. You have no weapons. Your fists are meaningless. Your teeth are decorative. You're not a threat. You're calories. So maybe you run. But run where? There's no map, no cover, no direction that isn't open danger. And you've never run barefoot across thorny, uneven savanna. Every step risks a sprained ankle, a torn sole, a bone break. And once you're limping into the jaws, and that leaves only one option. Freeze. Hope you blend in. Hope it doesn't see you. Hope you smell like nothing, sound like nothing, look like something not worth the effort. And if it chooses otherwise, there is no negotiation. There is only instinct, teeth, claws, blood. You might think, there must have been a time when humans fought back, when we stood tall, faced down the beasts. Yes, there was. But that was after fire, after spears. After shelters, after tribes, after strategies. Right now, you're prehistory with none of the tools. And the predators know. They quote, "For seen humans like this before. Lost ones. Alone ones. Slow ones." And yet, your ancestors survived. Not because they were the strongest. But because they learned to see before being seen. To act before reacting. To move with the terrain, not against it. They became students of nature's silence. And masters of knowing when to run. They didn't defeat predators by brute strength. They outlived them by becoming harder to catch. You'll need to learn that too. If you survive the first 10 minutes, so breathe. Slowly, silently. Lower yourself into the tall grass. Don't cough. Don't panic. Don't move unless you must. Watch the tree line. Smell the wind. Listen for birds. When they fall silent, danger is near. Because this isn't your world, it's theirs. And in this ancient game of predator and prey, you're already playing defense. The cold and the heat. This world does not welcome you. It does not adjust the thermostat. It does not care if you're comfortable. You're a fragile, warm-blooded creature, dropped naked into a climate that is either trying to freeze you, burn you, soak you, or split your skin with wind. The Paleolithic wasn't one climate. It was all of them, sometimes in the same region, sometimes in the same week. And you are not prepared for any of them. We imagine the Ice Age as a blanket of white, frozen lakes, snowy plains, and mammoths trudging through blizzards. And yes, that's true, in part. But the Ice Age was not one endless winter. It was a time of violent shifts, cycles of glacial cold and sudden warm spells, dry deserts and pounding rains. The Earth's climate swung like a pendulum. And every swing tried to kill you. Your modern body has grown up in shelters, in climate control. You complain when the Wi-Fi drops, when your AC is too cold, when your hot shower takes too long to warm up. Now imagine waking to find your breath freezing in midair, or your skin burning from a sun you can't escape. The cold doesn't just sting. It eats you. Slowly, invisibly, from the inside out. The human body begins to shut down at 35 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees Fahrenheit. At 30 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit, your muscles stop shivering, your coordination fails. At 25 degrees Celsius, 77 degrees Fahrenheit, you may start stripping off your clothes, not from heat but from hallucination. Soon after, you die. Not dramatically. Quietly. You curl up to sleep. And never wake again. That's hypothermia. And it was the silent reaper of early man. In places like ancient Europe and Central Asia, Ice Age humans faced temperatures that dipped below minus 30 degrees Celsius at night. The wind howled through valleys. Snow packed deep around camps. Fingers could freeze in minutes. And your body, modern, untrained and unclothed, is not built to survive that. Not without help. But here's the problem. You don't have help. You don't have fur. You don't have shelter. You don't even have shoes. And cold is just half the equation. Because in other parts of the world, the same ancestors faced brutal heat, searing deserts, sun-blasted savannas, and jungles that cook the air with humidity. You might think you can handle heat. But dehydration is faster than hunger. More efficient. You don't need to go days without water to die. Hours may be enough. In dry heat, you lose water with every breath. In humidity, you stop sweating and your body begins to boil. Your internal organs cook, your blood thickens. You stop thinking, then you stop being. Out here, survival isn't about hunger, it's about temperature. You have no buffer. No safety net. Every gust of wind and every shaft of sun is another equation your body has to solve to keep you alive. And your body doesn't have the answers. But your ancestors did. Clothing wasn't fashion. It was technology. And it took thousands of years to develop. When scientists examined the 5,000-year-old remains of Otzi the Iceman, they found a survival suit crafted with astonishing precision. A coat made from goat hide, stitched with grass fibres. Leggings of deerskin, tight-fitting to trap warmth. Shoes padded with soft grass, wrapped in bear leather for grip and insulation. A cape, a belt, a fur hat. Each piece was made with intent. Every material was chosen for a reason. And Otzi lived 45,000 years after your scenario begins. Early humans didn't stumble into these designs. They earned them through frostbite, death, and trial and dash error. They passed down knowledge, how to scrape hides, how to tan leather, how to twist fibres into thread. You don't even know how to cut hide from a carcass. Let alone stitch it into something wearable. You'll freeze before you figure it out. Still think you can escape into the forest and build a shelter? Good luck. Trees don't offer insulation. Caves aren't warm unless you seal them, and you don't have the tools or the training to do either. Shelter isn't just about having a roof, it's about controlling the microclimate around your body, blocking wind, conserving warmth, shedding moisture. Miss any of those pieces, and the climate claims you. And if the cold or heat don't get you, the storms will. The monsoons that carved river valleys, the flash floods that erased entire camps. The lightning that lit forests on fire. Imagine crouching under a rock outcrop, soaked and shaking while a thunderstorm collapses the sky around you. There is no raincoat, no tarp, no fire. Just endless wetness and the creeping chill. You can't dry off. You can't get warm. You just endure, or you don't. In today's world, we think of nature as scenery, a backdrop for hiking selfies. Something we visit on weekends. But to Paleolithic humans, climate was the enemy, or, at best, an unpredictable god. They studied the skies like scripture. Read the wind like prophecy. Planned migration by seasonal temperature shifts. They learned how to move with the earth, not against it. Because when you're at its mercy, resistance is suicide. You might be smart. But smart doesn't keep you dry. Smart doesn't stop wind from cutting through your bones. Only knowledge, passed down through generations, does that. Knowledge of clothing, shelter, seasonal change. The kind of knowledge that lives in the bones of cultures, not the minds of individuals. And you are alone. In this world, survival is a balancing act. Too much heat, and you die. Too much cold, and you die. Move too fast. You sweat and freeze. Move too slow. You never escape the night. There is no perfect pace. Only the narrow path between extremes. And you're not on it. You are dropped into a war zone wearing nothing but skin. No insulation. No hydration. No idea what tomorrow's weather will bring. The climate doesn't care. It never did. It punishes weakness and forgets mercy. So if you plan to survive the Paleolithic, you better start by respecting the wind, shelter from the storm. The sun is going down. You feel it first in your skin. The warmth that's been pressing against your back all day starts to slip away. Then in your bones. Then in your thoughts. Because when darkness comes in the Paleolithic, it comes fast. And it brings teeth. The temperature drops. The wind picks up. The shadows stretch long and thin across the savannah. Day was danger. But night is death. And you have nowhere to go. Shelter. The word sounds simple. In your world, it means 4 walls, a roof, maybe Wi-Fi. Here, it means survival, it means insulation, wind resistance, elevation, structure, dryness. It means knowing the land well enough to spot the places where animals don't sleep, where rain doesn't pool, where wind doesn't cut like a blade. But you don't know that. You don't know this land at all. Caves are the obvious answer. They quote. Re-iconic, romantic, safe. But they're not easy to find, Dot, and even if you do find one, then are you sure it's empty? Because cave lions, cave hyenas, cave bears all existed, Dot. And they didn't carve their names into the stone, Dot. You wouldn't even know it was occupied until you were inside, Dot. Until it was too late. In the Paleolithic, not all caves were shelters, some were death traps. If you're lucky, maybe you stumble upon a cliff overhang, a wide slab of rock that juts just enough to block the wind and shield the rain. Dot. You crawl in, curl up, and for a moment, there's quiet. But quiet doesn't mean safe, Dot. It only means you've bought time. Because even a good shelter is only as good as what you bring into it. And right now, you bring nothing. Shelter is a combination of location and innovation. One without the other won't save you. That's where your ancestors excelled. They didn't just find shelter. They built it. In the frozen north, where trees were scarce and snow fell thick and endless, early humans used the bones of mammoths, massive femurs and curved tusks, as framing for huts. They covered the structures with hides and turf, creating domes that could hold heat and block wind. Imagine it. Thousands of pounds of prehistoric architecture, a cold world cathedral. Made by hand, made by need. They didn't just survive the storm. They planned for it. You're still hoping not to get rained on. And then there's Otzi. His body was found frozen in the Alps, perfectly preserved after 5,000 years. What he wore, that's the real revelation. Otzi wasn't dressed in scraps. He wore a technological masterpiece, a coat made from goat and sheep hides tailored and stitched with sinew and plant fibre, leggings of deerskin fitted tight to trap warmth, a fur hat lined for insulation, grass-filled shoes wrapped in bearskin designed for traction on ice, a cape, a belt, even a small pouch for tools. This wasn't luck. This was engineering, and it took generations to figure out. Thousands of years of trial and error. Of people freezing to death before someone thought, if I twist this sinew just right, if I layer these hides, if I dry this grass. Otzi's coat wasn't just clothing. It was ancestral memory, stitched into hide and passed down through firelight and storytelling. You have none of that. Your modern hands have never scraped a hide. Never dried sinew, never sharpened bone. You wouldn't even know where to begin. So when the cold comes, you don't wrap yourself in a mammoth hide coat. You shiver in your skin. And when the rain starts, it soaks you through. And the wind, it slices deeper with every gust. You try to huddle behind a rock. But the ground is wet. Your body heat leaches into the earth. And the night is only beginning. You don't think about it now, but heat is a resource. Shelter is what keeps it. Without it, your body becomes the campfire. And once your fire goes out, it doesn't come back. That's the clock you're on. Some early humans built windbreaks from branches and stacked stones. Others dug pit shelters using the earth itself for insulation. They used moss, bark, woven grasses, whatever nature gave them. Not because it was beautiful, not because it was traditional. Because it worked. Every Paleolithic camp was a lesson in adaptation. Every night, a test of knowledge. They knew where the wind would shift. They knew where the predators circled. They knew how to sleep without dying. You don't. And that's the cruel part. Your brain is smart. You could eventually learn. But you don't have time. Because every second you spend exposed, you lose something. Heat, moisture, awareness, hope. And the moment you close your eyes to rest, something else might be watching. You lie curled in the dark. Your stomach growls, your skin aches, your thoughts blur. You don't remember when you stopped shaking. That's not a good sign. The cold has moved in. Not just around you, but inside you. Your fingers are numb, your lips are cracked, your legs feel heavy. You try to stay awake, because you know, instinctively, that sleep is dangerous, but it feels so warm to just stop. And that's how it happens. One bad night. One unsheltered storm. One forgotten body curled under a tree found years later as bones. Your ancestors knew this. They knew how to fight the dark. How to steal warmth from the earth. How to last the night. Because the truth is, shelter wasn't an option. It was a requirement. No shelter meant no future. Not for the individual, not for the tribe, not for the species. They didn't dream about walls and roofs. They earned them. You don't need a house. You don't need a cabin. But you need something between your soft, dying body and the raw, uncaring elements. And you need it now, because in the Paleolithic, your first night could be your last. Fire is everything. It's getting colder. The sun is gone, the sky is black. You're crouched in the dark with nothing but your own breath for warmth. And every sound beyond your reach is a whisper of death. You don't have food. You don't have shelter. But more urgently, you don't have fire. And without fire, you're already halfway to dead. In our world, fire is simple. You flick a lighter, push a button, a stove hums, a match flares. We control it so easily we forget what it means. But here, in this raw, indifferent world, fire is everything. It is warmth in a frozen night. It is light in a predator's world. It is the smell of cooked meat instead of raw blood. It is the difference between a human surviving and a human being eaten. Our ancestors knew this. They feared the night, but they made the night fear them back with flame. They carried embers across miles. They fed fires with dried dung and dead branches. They treated sparks like gold. Because in a world of hyenas and cold winds and poison fruit, a single burning coal was more precious than any jewel. You understand that now. The shadows around you are closing in. You've tried hiding. Tried curling into the dirt. But the cold is patient. And something out there is moving. Slowly, silently, waiting for you to close your eyes. You need fire. You need it now. So, make it. Should be easy, right? 2 sticks. Rub them together. Just like the movies. Except it doesn't work like that. Not at all. Friction fire is not like what you've seen on screen. You don't just find 2 branches and grind them until magic happens. No. You need specific tools. Specific woods. Specific angles, motions, and materials. You need a fireboard, a spindle, a notch cut precisely, a bowstring if you're making a bow drill, a socket to hold pressure, tinder, dry as bone, flammable as dreams. You need technique. You need skill. You need practice. And right now, you have none of those things. Let's say you find a dry stick, a straight one. Let's say you sharpen it on a rock. Let's say you find a flat piece of wood that might serve as a hearth. You kneel. You press. You spin. Your hands burn. Your wrists ache. Your breath quickens. Minutes pass, then hours. You're sweating now, but not from heat. From panic. Because the smoke doesn't come. Or worse, smoke does come. And then disappears. The ember dies in your trembling hands. And the darkness leans closer. Primitive skills instructors, people who train for years, often struggle for hours to get a coal. Even with prepared tools, in good weather, with dry materials. You're shivering, exhausted. Your fingers are numb. Your body is slowing down. And the twigs you found are damp from last night's dew. Every failure costs more than time. It costs hope. Your ancestors didn't just make fire. They protected it. They built culture around it. Some researchers believe early humans couldn't always make fire from scratch. Instead, they kept it alive. Like a living creature. They fed it, guarded it, moved it from place to place like sacred treasure. Because starting from zero was that hard. And you're learning that lesson now. The hard way. Fire was our first tool. Our first weapon. Our first defense against a world that did not want us. With fire, we pushed back the night. Cooked our food. Sterilized our water. Smoked our kills. Hardened our spears. Warned off predators. Gathered around it to tell stories. It wasn't just survival. It was civilization. And you don't have it. Let's talk consequences. No fire means you can't cook, so even if you do catch something, good luck digesting raw meat. You can't boil water, which means every sip from a stream is a game of bacterial roulette. You can't signal for help, not that anyone's coming. You can't stay warm. You can't keep predators away, because they fear the flame. They know what it means. A fire isn't just heat, it's a barrier, a glowing wall between your fragile body and the hungry world around it. Without it, you're just a noise in the dark. Imagine you manage to strike sparks with flint and pyrite. Maybe you find some dry bark. Maybe after hours of trying, you get a coal. It smoulders. You blow, gently. You cradle it. It spreads. And suddenly, you have flame. It crackles. It glows. It dances. You've done it. You've made fire. You feel powerful. But that fire is not a trophy, it's a responsibility. You need fuel, constantly. Wood, dung, dry moss, twigs. If it dies, you start over, from nothing, again. Because this world won't wait. The cold won't pause. The predators won't reschedule. Your ancestors learned to control fire around 1.5 million years ago. Sites in Kenya, like Kubifora, contain charcoal layers and burned bones, evidence of fire use dating back to before modern humans. By 400,000 years ago, it was a common skill among hominins, and it changed everything. We became nocturnal hunters. We expanded into colder regions. We sat around flames and became storytellers. We didn't just survive. We transformed. You want to survive the Paleolithic? Then you need fire. Not once. Not sometimes. Every day. Because fire is not optional. Fire is life. And you're just now learning how hard that is. So tonight, as you huddle in the dark, sore, cold, afraid, you understand something profound. The people who came before you weren't lucky. They weren't dumb cavemen banging rocks. They were genius engineers of necessity, masters of patience. Alchemists of heat. They built the foundation of humanity from sparks and ashes, and without their knowledge, you're just another frozen body waiting to be discovered. No tools, no hope. Survival requires technology. Your hands are empty. No spear. No blade. No basket. Just skin and bone. You crouch beneath a tree, hunger gnawing, cold creeping, and every breath reminds you, you're not built for this world without help. You're not weak. But you're helpless. Because in the Paleolithic, technology is survival, and you have none. We like to think tools are a modern thing. Smartphones, microwaves, power drills. But the truth is, humans have always been tool makers. It's what made us. But tool use wasn't magic. It was earned. Every edge chipped. Every handle carved. Every cord twisted from sinew and bark was a revelation. It took millennia to perfect the knowledge you now wish you had. And here, in this place, that ignorance might kill you. You see a rock. It's just a rock. Until it's not. Because some rocks are sharper than others. Some fracture in patterns. Some can hold an edge. Some, like flint or obsidian, can be flicked into weapons. But you don't know that. You don't know how to look at a stone and see utility. You see geology. Your ancestors saw possibility. The difference between a rock and a tool? Intention. A rock is what the earth gives you. A tool is what you give back to the earth, with knowledge, with effort, with thought. The first stone tools, simple flakes used to scrape meat or break bones, date back over 2.5 million years. By 1.7 million years ago, humans were shaping Acheulean hand axes, teardrop masterpieces of symmetry and function. They weren't crude dot, they were engineered. They fit the hand perfectly dot. They sliced, they hammered, they butchered dot. They weren't just tools dot, they were survival kits carved from stone. You try to copy one now. Dot, you grab a rock, hit it against another. It chips dot, your fingers bleed, dot, the flake's wrong. Dull, no edge, useless. Because flint knapping isn't random, it's a language of pressure and precision. To shape a hand axe you need the right material, the right angle, the right percussion, a soft hammer like antler or bone, a practiced rhythm. Without those things, you're just breaking rocks, and not in a poetic ancient way dot, in a hopeless this isn't working way. No tools means you can't hunt, you can't scrape hides, you can't build shelter, you can't make clothing, you can't process food. No tools means no fire drills dot, no bone awls dot, no needles dot, no spear points dot, no bows, no arrows, no baskets, no fish hooks. Nothing. Early humans didn't have factories dot, but they had factories of the mind. A Paleolithic camp was a workshop dot, stones flaked into knives dot, bones, carved into awls and pins dot, wood shaped into spears and digging sticks. They didn't just pick things up dot, they made things happen. And every one of those things added time to their lives. Dot, time you're quickly running out of. Need water? You'll need a container, a gourd, a bladder, a stitched up stomach from an animal dot. Or you'll die carrying it in your hands until it slips, spills, or soaks into the ground. Need to store food? You'll need cordage. Woven fibres dot, netted bags made from bark, reeds, sinew. Need to dig roots? You'll need a digging stick, hardened by fire dot, wait. You still don't have fire. You begin to realize everything connects. No fire, no hardened tools dot, no tools, no fire dot, no clothing dot, no hunting dot, no defense. You're not just missing one thing dot, you're missing everything. Imagine the first time someone used bone, not for food, but for crafting dot. They sharpened it into an awl dot, used it to pierce hide dot, threaded sinew through the hole. A needle was born, not flashy, not heroic dot, but world-changing. Because now we could make tailored clothing, now we could survive the ice dot. Now we could move into colder lands, hunt bigger prey, stay alive longer. And it started with someone looking at a broken bone and thinking, I can do something with this. That's what you lacked, not muscle, not brains. Experience. Generational knowledge passed from mother to daughter, father to son dot. How to strike stone dot, how to spot flint dot, how to twist cordage from nettle fibres dot, how to carve a hook from antler. Your ancestors passed down survival like stories. You're starting the story at chapter 1 in a language you don't speak. Some early tools were so well made they outlasted the people who used them. Archaeologists have found caches of flint tools buried for later use. Stashed like treasure, like inheritance. It shows one thing. They knew how hard it was to start over dot, and they planned ahead so no one would have to. You don't have that luxury dot, no cash dot, no inheritance. Just you, dirt and your ignorance. Even fire drills were tools. The bow drill, developed late in prehistory, was an innovation of physics. The spindle spun faster, longer. The bow gave mechanical advantage. The socket stabilized. The baseboard caught the coal. It took hundreds, thousands of years to arrive at that level of sophistication. But once we had it, we became unstoppable. We crossed deserts. We climbed glaciers. We colonized every corner of Earth. Because with the right tools, even a hostile world becomes manageable. Without them, the world devours you. So tonight you hold a stone in your hand. You stare at it, willing it to become useful. But it doesn't change. Because survival isn't about hope, it's about transformation, and you haven't earned it yet. Your ancestors shaped the world to suit them. You haven't shaped anything. In the end, you'll realize it's not just that you don't have tools, it's that you don't know how to make tools. And that's the real danger. Because in the Paleolithic, no tools means no future. The poison problem. You haven't eaten in days. Your stomach twists like a snake. Your thoughts blur. Your body begins to cannibalize itself, burning fat, then muscle, then spirit. And you see it. A plant. Green leaves, small berries, vibrant red. It looks edible. It has to be edible. But in the Paleolithic, looks can kill. Welcome to your next great challenge. Food. Not finding it. But knowing it. Because in this ancient world, the line between nutrition and poison is razor-thin. And your modern instincts, they're not trained for this. At all. We romanticize living off the land, foraging through forests. Snacking on wild fruit. Eating what nature provides. But nature doesn't provide. It tests. And most modern humans fail the test before the first bite. You reach for those red berries. But pause. Because some part of you remembers, colour can mean danger. And red, in particular, often signals toxicity. But which red berries are safe, which are deadly? Can you tell the difference between wild cherries and the berries of the Daphne shrub, which can stop your heart? No? Then you might be minutes away from your last meal. Let's talk about jaquirity seeds. They look harmless. Small, shiny, red with a black. Beautiful comma, really. But they contain abrin, one of the most lethal botanical toxins known to science. Even a single crushed seed can be fatal. To ancient eyes, this wasn't just a plant. It was a predator. Camouflaged in beauty. To you, it looks like a bead, a snack. An ornament. One wrong assumption, and you're gone. And it's not just seeds. Some roots contain cyanide. Some leaves trigger internal bleeding. Some mushrooms rot the liver before you feel the pain. And by the time you do feel it, it's too late. Because the real killer here isn't the poison, it's ignorance. Early humans didn't guess. They didn't eat random berries hoping for the best. They knew. They learned from experience, often passed down through tragedy. They watched what animals ate. They noticed which plants bloomed in what seasons. They boiled certain leaves 3 times. Fermented. Others. Removed skins, scraped saps, dried toxins away. This wasn't natural instinct. This was cultural memory carved in trial and error. And those who forgot the rules, they died. In a 2016 study of early humans in Israel, archaeologists found evidence of foragers who consumed over 55 different plant species. Nuts, roots, greens, seeds. That's not random grazing. That's sophisticated knowledge of botany, ecology, and preparation methods. Knowledge you don't have. Imagine walking into a vast ancient garden, but every fruit could be your last. This is your new reality. You're not just fighting hunger, you're fighting the land itself. And it has tricks. Some plants cause vomiting. Others delay symptoms by hours, so you eat, walk, and die later. Some make you dizzy. Some close your throat. Many are indistinguishable from safe ones to untrained eyes. You think you'll just try a little, just a nibble. Just enough to see what happens. But this isn't an allergy test. This is chemical warfare. Your liver wasn't built for prehistoric toxins. And your modern gut, soft, coddled. Used to preservatives, labels, expiration dates. You're a long way from Whole Foods. Trial and error isn't a strategy, it's a death sentence. Because even if the food doesn't kill you, a bad reaction can cripple you. Vomiting, dehydration. Cramps. Loss of movement. Dizziness, easy prey. And weakness, in this world, weakness equals death. Early humans passed down plant wisdom like treasure. A leaf crushed into paste to soothe burns. A bark boiled to ease pain. A root scraped to induce sleep. An herb chewed to purge poison. These were not superstitions. They were survival protocols. They were medicine and food. Tool and weapon. You don't know them. You don't even know where to begin. So you starve. Or risk it. You chew a leaf. It's bitter. Your mouth tingles. 10 minutes later, your gut twists. A rash blooms across your skin. You're not dying yet, but the night is coming. And now you're slower. Sicker. More vulnerable. And there's still no food. To survive, you need a forager's memory, a healer's instincts, a botanist's brain, 1,000 years of experience passed mouth to mouth, hand to hand. Instead, you have Google. And no signal. Plants lie. They look like others. Taste like others. Grow near others. But your ancestors learned their secrets through generations. Through songs. Through storytelling by the fire. They carved warnings into memory. They taught children what not to touch before they taught them how to hunt. Because in this world, knowledge is armor. And food is a gamble. You see a patch of green. It might be sorrel. Or foxglove. Or deadly nightshade. You hesitate. And that hesitation? That's wisdom. That's evolution whispering in your ear. Don't guess. Because in the Paleolithic, guessing is fatal. Eventually, if you live long enough, you might learn the land. You might track a squirrel to its cache. You might see which roots the birds peck. You might find patterns in the poison. But that takes time. And hunger doesn't wait. Neither do predators. Neither does weather. Neither does your unravelling body. You thought the danger was lions. You thought it was the cold. But here's the truth. You're more likely to be killed by a plant. Silently. Effortlessly. While your own stomach cheers you on. Your ancestors weren't just survivors. They were chemists. Foragers, pharmacists of the forest. And they left you a world filled with tools, plants to cure, to heal, to nourish. But only if you know which ones. So, what will it be? Berries or bark, leaves or roots, eat or wait. In the Paleolithic, the wrong bite wasn't a mistake. It was a sentence, and no one came back for the second try. You're not a hunter. No weapons, no skills, no strategy. You're starving. You've chewed bitter roots. Sipped dirty water. And now, a shadow moves on the horizon, a herd of animals. Food. Meat. Salvation. But here's the problem. You are not a hunter. Not here, not now, not in this world. You're just another hungry animal, and to them, probably not even a very threatening one. You imagine chasing one. Running it down. Leaping onto its back like a caveman in a movie. But that's a fantasy. You don't have a spear. You don't have a bow. You don't have shoes. You don't even have the endurance for more than a few miles of sprinting before your modern desk-fed body betrays you. And the animals? They know this land. They've survived here for generations. They hear your breathing. Smell your sweat. Feel the vibration of your stumbling footsteps. And they're gone, long before you get within striking distance. Real hunting, prehistoric hunting, was never about brute force. It was strategy, it was patience, it was community. You're alone. And that more than anything, seals your fate. Anthropologists have uncovered evidence of sophisticated Paleolithic hunting tactics. In what is now eastern France, early humans built fires in seasonal patterns to funnel massive herds of reindeer and horses into narrow valleys, natural traps where prey could be killed quickly and safely. It wasn't chaos, it was coordination. A team of hunters, lookouts, signallers, flankers, drivers. Thousands of years before farming, they were herd managers, just with stone tools instead of fences. Can you build a trap? Can you make a pitfall? Do you know how to identify migration routes? How to move quietly upwind unseen? You don't, and without that, you're not the predator. You're the incompetent threat that gets ignored or eaten. Hunting wasn't just a skill, It was a lifetime of training. Modern hunter-gatherer societies raise children to track from the moment they can walk. They read broken twigs. Analyze. Droppings. Spot prints in mud. The way you read emojis. They learn animal behaviour the way you learn grammar. Because here, animals are everything. You don't memorize brands. You memorize tracks. You don't download directions. You interpret wind. And if you don't, you go hungry. Even the weapons were miracles of human patience. A sharpened stick could work, sure, if you're lucky. But Paleolithic people weren't betting on luck. They carved composite spears, hardened tips with fire, added flint points with sinew bindings and resin glues, balanced shafts for throwing or thrusting, and hunted in groups. Sometimes they waited for hours. Sometimes days. You're hungry now. And you have no tools, no group, and no plan. Just desperation. And desperation makes you sloppy. You see a lone animal, a deer, maybe a gazelle. You sprint. It sees you instantly. Bolts. You chase for 30 seconds. Then your breath catches. Your legs burn. Your heart pounds like a drum in your ears. And it's gone. Not just that deer, all of them, because now the herd knows something dangerous is nearby. They'll avoid this valley for days, maybe weeks. You've spooked your own pantry. Persistence hunting, chasing animals until they collapse from exhaustion, was real. But it required incredible cardiovascular fitness, years of terrain knowledge, tracking skill, a team rotating runners. You are alone. You're dehydrated. Malnourished. Under equipped. Slow. And to the wildlife of the Paleolithic, you are a joke. Imagine hunting a mammoth. Not one-on-one, but in a group of 30, coordinated across miles. Digging pits. Using spears. Timing attacks. Surrounding it. All of this planned without writing, without radios. Just grunts, gestures, and generations of shared tactics. And yet, it worked. Because they weren't guessing. They were drawing on hundreds of years of learning. You, by contrast, are thinking, can I use this sharp stick to poke that antelope? Even scavenging isn't safe. Yes, you might find a kill site. Some leftovers from a predator. But now you're competing with scavengers that evolved for this game. Hyenas, vultures, jackals. They've got numbers. Teeth. Guts adapted to rotting flesh. You've got fear and a weak stomach. And if the predators who made the kill return, then you're dinner too. So maybe you go after something small. A bird, a rabbit, a lizard. Now you're crawling. Sneaking. Trying to use a rock as a club. And it works. Once in 10 tries. But even then, you need to skin it. Gut it. Cook it. You don't know how. Even success means new challenges. By the way, miss one step in butchering, you risk infection. Eat raw meat, risk parasites. Leave blood on your hands, you're now advertising your position to everything with a nose. And everything with a nose is faster, stronger, hungrier than you. There's a brutal irony to all this. Your brain is advanced. It could build a strategy if you had time. But you don't have time. You need food today, tonight. Now. You are living moment to moment. But hunting is not a moment to moment activity. It's preparation. It's discipline. It's a cultural art form. And you're a tourist with a death wish. In the animal kingdom, predators are specialized. They're born with claws, teeth, camouflage, or venom. Humans, we were born with none of that. What we had was cooperation and tools, neither of which you have now. So, you sit empty-handed, watching a rabbit hop away like a millionaire dismissing a beggar. You're not a hunter. You're the thing that gets hunted or ignored. That hunger in your gut, it's not new, it's ancestral. But your ancestors fed it by thinking ahead. You tried to feed it by running blindly, us. And that's why you're still hungry. The hidden killers, infection, parasites, disease. You cut your hand, just a scrape, on a rock, a thorn, a jagged bone. It stings. You suck on it. Maybe wrap it in a leaf. No big deal. But in the Paleolithic, that cut is a countdown. Because here, without soap, medicine, or antibiotics, even a scratch can be a death sentence. Forget the predators. Forget the hunger. Forget the weather even. The real enemy? You can't see it. It's already inside you. Crawling on your skin. Floating in your water. Drifting in the air. Bacteria, viruses, parasites. The hidden killers. And you are defenseless. You are dropped into this world with nothing. But it's not just your tools that are missing. It's your immune training. Your body evolved in a sterile bubble. A world of hand sanitizer, vaccines, filtered water, plastic packaging. Your ancestors, they lived in the dirt. Drank from streams. Gutted animals with bare hands. Cleaned wounds with ash, spit, or nothing at all. You're soft. And the Paleolithic is not forgiving. Let's start with infection. That cut on your hand, it's now swollen, red, warm to the touch. A sign. Your body is trying to fight. But it's not enough. There's no alcohol to disinfect. No bandage to keep it clean. No antibiotic cream. No stitches. And if the infection spreads, fever. Pain. Delirium. Sepsis. Your own blood turns against you. You go into shock. And you die. Slowly, painfully, because you brushed against a rock. Or maybe it wasn't a cut. Maybe it was a blister on your foot, a thorn embedded too deep, a splinter from a mammoth bone hut, a fly bite, a tick, a scratch from underbrush. It doesn't take much. In this world, your skin is your armor, and the moment it breaks, the world crawls in. Even your mouth isn't safe. Chew the wrong plant and ulcers bloom on your tongue. Drink from the wrong puddle and parasites swarm your gut. Your stomach bloats. You vomit. You purge everything, food, water, strength. And now you're even weaker, dehydrated, dizzy. Open to every other threat. Let's talk worms. Parasitic worms were constant companions of ancient humans. Some lived in your intestines, stealing nutrients. Others bored into your muscles. Some laid eggs beneath your skin, hatching weeks later. You feel a wriggle in your leg. You scratch. It spreads. You don't know what's happening. You don't know how it's happening. But it's happening inside you. Modern studies show ancient humans had high loads of helminths, intestinal parasites like hookworms, tapeworms, and whipworms. They caused chronic fatigue, malnutrition, developmental delays, death. And those were the lucky parasites. Others caused blindness. Organ damage. Severe inflammation. You don't see it in the movies, but in real life, parasites kill slowly while you suffer daily. You try to boil water, but you don't have fire. You try to find a spring, but the animals poop upstream. You drink anyway. Thirst outweighs fear. And now, Giardia. a single-celled organism, invisible dot. It attaches to your intestines, causes explosive diarrhea. Every drop you drink brings risk. Every sip a potential poison, because in this world there are no signs, no lifeguards, no boil before drinking labels, just consequences. Your teeth hurt. Gums bleed. A tooth gets loose. There's no dentist. No floss. No fluoride. Tooth infections become abscesses. Abscesses rupture into the bloodstream. Blood poisoning. Dead. You could survive the winter, outrun predators, and still be taken down by a bad molar. And the worst part, you don't even know you're infected until it's too late. You feel tired. You think it's hunger. You feel dizzy. You think it's dehydration. And then your body collapses, because the illness inside you has been growing for days, maybe weeks, and now it's time. Even childbirth, a miracle in our world, was a battlefield in the Paleolithic. With no antiseptics, no sterile tools, no trained attendants, infection during or after labour was common. One study of skeletal remains shows high mortality rate for women in reproductive years. One wrong move. One retained placenta. One unwashed hand. And both mother and child die. And still they endured. They found ways to fight back. They used honey, nature's antiseptic. They used charcoal ash, herbs, and clay. They cauterized wounds. They boiled bark. They brewed broths. They improvised medicine. Not because they understood germs, but because they understood experience. They learned what worked. They passed it on. And that passing down was the only reason humans survived long enough to evolve. You only know medicine through screens. You've never made a poultice. You've never boiled willow bark for pain relief. You've never even treated a wound without a band-aid. You're not prepared. Your modern immune system, pampered by hygiene and antibiotics, is like a museum piece. Valuable, but fragile. And the Paleolithic, it's not a museum. It's a battlefield. You might not die from predators. You might not starve. But in the end, a small cut, a sip of water, a bite of meat. That's all it takes. Because in this world, the most dangerous killers don't roar. They don't stalk. They don't chase. They wait. And when they strike, you'll never even see them coming. Every sip could kill you. Finding safe water in a deadly world. You're thirsty. Your mouth is dry. Your tongue is heavy like leather. Your thoughts feel slow, fuzzy, fading into heat and desperation. And then you hear it. A trickle, a stream. Water. You stumble toward it. Kneel. Cup your hands. But before you take that first sip, stop. Because here, in the Paleolithic, every sip could kill you. Water is life. But in this world, water is also death disguised as salvation. The stream looks clear. Maybe cold. Maybe beautiful, running over ancient stones and moss. But what you can't see, bacteria. Parasites. Microscopic killers carried by every drop. The same crystal stream might have animal feces upstream, rotten carcasses nearby protozoa like Giardia and Cryptosporidium, deadly bacteria like E. coli and Vibrio flukes, worms, larval eggs. Your body wasn't built for this. Not anymore. Paleolithic humans were different. They had what scientists now call water literacy. They didn't just drink water. They read it. They interpreted it. Like a tracker reads prints or a hunter studies a herd. They knew when a stream was tainted. They watched animal behavior. They smelled the air. They tasted the soil. They looked for signs you wouldn't even recognize. You see a bubbling creek. They see a death trap. Modern humans? We are the children of plumbing. Of sealed bottles. Of UV filters and chlorination. We drink water that's been filtered, sanitized, tested, and triple-checked. We call it clean. But here, there is no clean. There is only guesswork, and if you guess wrong, You don't get a stomachache, Dot, you get dysentery. You get organ failure. You get dehydrated from the very thing meant to rehydrate you. It's ironic, Dot, you can die from drinking water, Dot, or die from not drinking it, Dot. And your margin for error is razor thin. Let's say you drink, Dot, the water tastes fine, Dot, maybe a little earthy, Dot, maybe slightly metallic. But within an hour your stomach cramps, Dot, your vision blurs, Dot, you vomit, Dot, you can't stop. You try to lie down, Dot, try to breathe, Dot, but the world spins, Dot, and the dehydration you were trying to fight. Now it's back, worse than before, with diarrhea, vomiting, fever, and no strength left to stand. You went to quench your thirst, Dot, now, you're dying faster. That's how ancient water kills, not with drama, but with silence, Dot, with slow, steady decay. It wears you down, Dot, it hollows you out, Dot. And then, when you're weak enough, the rest of the world finishes the job. Early humans learned the hard way, Dot, they died from tainted streams, and the survivors remembered. They passed knowledge down through generations. Drink only upstream, avoid water near animal paths. Never drink after a heavy rain, look for moss, frogs, bees, smell for rot. Boil when possible, let it settle. Some even dug shallow wells beside rivers allowing sand and soil to pre-filter the water. That's not luck, that's technology. And yes, they boiled water. Not always, not everywhere, Dot. But in colder regions, or where illness spread, they heated. Rocks dropped them into bark bowls or stone pits and raised the temperature until the water bubbled. No fire, no boiling, Dot. No boiling, roll the dice. And without a group, without tools, without inherited memory, you're not filtering, you're not testing, you're just hoping. And in the Paleolithic, hope is a terrible survival strategy. Even collecting water was a challenge. You need containers, skins, gourds, woven baskets, Dot. You have none. So you're tied to every source you find, Dot. If it dries, you move. If it floods, you wait. If it's taken over by predators, you risk everything. Water controls you now, Dot, not the other way around. And water wasn't just for drinking, Dot. It was for washing, wounds, hands, food. One careless moment and a filthy hand contaminates your meal. A dirty tool infects a scratch. A sip after butchering a sick animal gives you blood-borne parasites. Every contact with water required care, deliberation, knowledge. The Paleolithic wasn't a world where water was everywhere, it was a world where safe water was rare. And the seasons made it worse. Dry seasons turned streams into stagnant pools, Teeming with larvae, bloated frogs, and rot. Monsoons turned clean rivers into floods of mud, blood, and death. There were no guarantees, Only questions. Where does this stream begin? What drank here before me? What died upstream? How long since the last rain? Is that algae, or something worse? And no signs, No lifeguards, no Google. Just instinct, And instinct is something you never trained. You think the jungle is lush, the forest generous, the river a gift. But every drop must be earned, not just found understood, because hydration without wisdom is suicide. Even rainfall wasn't safe, and some early humans harvested rainwater, using leaves, skins, and stones, But rain can collect airborne toxins, soil-borne bacteria, and animal droppings from treetops. Every drop a riddle, every sip a test. And you never studied. Now imagine this. You're weak, dizzy, mouth dry, you crawl to a puddle, your reflection blurs, you drink again. You think you've won, you think you're saved. But the clock has already started ticking, the infection is already inside you, and the sun is setting. Tomorrow you won't even have the strength to crawl. This isn't just about thirst, it's about vulnerability. Your ancestors didn't survive because water was easy. They survived because they were smart. Careful. Wise. They paid attention to the land. And they taught their children how not to die. That knowledge, it wasn't in books. It was in behavior, and it saved them. Every day. You want to live in the wild? You want to survive like a Paleolithic hero? Then learn this first. The water is watching. It offers salvation. And demands respect. One careless sip and the land reclaims you. Movement is survival. You can't stay in one place. You wake to silence. Not peace. Not comfort. Just the kind of silence that warns more than it soothes. The sun is rising. The chill of the night is still in your bones. You haven't eaten. You haven't found water. You haven't seen shelter in miles. And your legs hurt. But staying here? That's death. Because in the Paleolithic world, survival wasn't about building a home, it was about never standing still for too long. Movement wasn't an option. It was the rule. You moved to follow animals. You moved to avoid predators. You moved to chase the seasons. You moved because staying meant starving. Modern humans crave stability. We build homes. We set roots. We fight to stay in one place. But our ancestors, they survived by leaving. When food ran out, they left. When a storm came, they left. When disease struck, they left. When predators moved in, they ran. And you? You don't know which way to go. Because everything around you looks the same. Trees, rocks, brush, sky. And you have no map. No compass. No GPS. Just feet that hurt. And instincts that never had to evolve. Paleolithic people were nomads by necessity. They travelled dozens, sometimes hundreds, of kilometres across seasonal cycles. In small groups. With elders, children, tools, food, and stories. And they didn't wander blindly. They navigated with precision, using the position of the sun, the shape of the horizon, the movement of stars, the direction of animal migrations, changes in plant life. Shifts in wind, smell, and humidity, memory layered, shared, repeated. They weren't just moving. They were tracking the earth, and they knew how to do it without ever drawing a line. You take a few steps. You look behind you. Where did you come from? You're not sure. The path is gone. The grass has sprung back. The trees all look alike. And now you realize you've lost your sense of direction. Already. And worse, there's no one to ask. Imagine crossing a plain with no visible landmarks. Or moving through dense forest where sunlight barely touches the ground. Now, try doing it in the rain. At dusk. Without shoes. Without rest. Your ancestors faced this daily, and still they didn't just move, they moved with purpose. They knew when their reindeer would pass. Where the mammoths crossed the rivers. Which cliffs had edible plants. Where to find dry wood even after storms. Because they moved with memory, their minds were maps. Yours is blank. You try to use the sun. But it's behind clouds. And even if it weren't, do you really know where east is at this hour? You try to climb a tree for a better view. The bark grips your hands. The branches sway. You fall before reaching the first fork. There is no easy path. There is no good view. Just the need to keep going. Nomadic life wasn't a choice. It was biology. The food was seasonal. The animals moved. The water dried up. And groups that stayed too long in one place became victims of infection, of famine, of predators, of their own waste. You couldn't plant crops. You couldn't build walls. The earth was wild, and it did not wait. Even resting was dangerous. If you slept too long, you risked a predator catching your scent, the temperature dropping, your fire going out, your body becoming too stiff to run. Rest was rationed like water. You earned it only by moving first. Migration wasn't random. Dot, it was learned. It was social memory passed through generations. Grandmothers remembered which valley flooded every third year. Uncles recalled the tree where birds nested in spring. Children were taught to memorize the stars. And the stars, they were the map above all maps. They rotated slowly, predictably. The North Star, constant. Constellations rising and falling with seasons. Telling you when it was time to move south or cross the pass or wait out the storms. You've seen constellations on apps. They saw them as survival guides. Now imagine walking through this world, exhausted, starving, sick. And every wrong step might be the last. A swamp mistaken for a path, a den mistaken for a cave, a ravine hidden under dry leaves. Because movement without knowledge is just a slow death. And every time you get wrong, you lose more than time. You lose calories. You lose daylight. You lose hope. Paleolithic people didn't wait to get lost. They taught each other how not to be. They marked paths with stones. They used firelight to signal other bands. They told stories, layered with coded instructions for seasons and stars. They didn't just move through the land. They became part of it. You're just passing through. Blind. Mouth. Dry. Heart racing. Feet blistered. You walk a little more. Then a little more. And when you finally stop, it's not because you found safety. It's because you can't walk anymore. Still think survival is about strength or knowledge or courage? It's not. It's about motion. You move. You adapt. You learn or you die. Paleolithic humans didn't just conquer the earth. They circled it. On foot. In the cold. With no map. Because they learned to follow the land. You're standing still. In a place that does not forgive stillness. The group is life. Why being alone? Death. You're alone. No voices. No firelight. No shelter. Just the cold dirt under your feet, the endless dark above your head, and the sound of your own breathing. At first, it seems like peace. Freedom. The silence of nature. The solitude of a simpler time. But make no mistake, in the Paleolithic world, being alone isn't freedom, it's a death sentence. Modern humans celebrate the lone survivor. The rugged individualist. The person who walks into the wild and carves out a life with nothing but grit and a knife. But that's fiction. Romantic, clean. Safe in the warm glow of your screen. The truth? You don't make it alone. No one did. Our ancestors didn't just survive because they were smart or strong. They survived because they formed groups. They depended on one another. Utterly, completely. And they made it through the most brutal conditions the earth could offer because they weren't just individuals. They were bands, families. Tribes. Small, mobile, close. Usually 15 to 30 people. That number wasn't random. It was biological. It was strategic. Enough people to share tasks, pass down knowledge, guard one another, but small enough to move quickly to feed everyone from limited resources. A Paleolithic band wasn't a club. It was a survival machine. You think being alone just means being lonely. Missing conversation. Craving company. That's the modern view. But out here, alone means no one to watch your back while you sleep, no one to help when you fall and twist your ankle, no one to show you which berries are poison, no one to pass you food when you haven't eaten in 2 days, no one to care if you're bleeding, coughing or breaking. Alone means you won't last long. In a hunter-gatherer band, everyone had a role. Not because they were told to, but because evolution made it necessary. The old remembered. The young observed. Adults tracked, built, foraged, hunted. Mothers nursed. Not just their own. Fathers trained the group's children. Everyone contributed. Everyone depended. Division of labour wasn't optional. It was the infrastructure of survival. And you have to do everything yourself. With no experience. No help. No backup. And you're already failing. You can't find shelter. You don't know where to hunt. Your hands are too cold to start a fire. You're sick or hungry or too tired to keep moving. And then the panic sets in. Because in your modern world, someone always comes. A parent, a doctor, a friend, a stranger, a signal. Here, no one is coming. Because no one knows you're alive. Paleolithic bands had emotional survival too. When you cried, someone held you. When you feared the dark, others shared the fire. When you told a story, others listened. That mattered. It changed the chemistry of the human brain. We evolved to be social not just because it's nice, but because it's critical. Oxytocin. Endorphins. Dopamine. The brain's reward systems are built on connection. On being seen, on being part of something bigger than you. When those bonds break, cognition dulls. Energy drops. Hope vanishes. Even the strongest hunter in the Ice Age couldn't survive despair. Still not convinced. Let's talk learning. You have no time to invent everything from scratch. You need knowledge fast. How to make a spear, boil water, avoid disease, spot animal tracks, smoke meat, find dry firewood in rain, cure infections, predict weather, carve clothing, communicate warning signs. You will not learn these things alone. You will not survive the endless trial and error. You need someone to show you. Correct you. Warn you. Teach you. And in a band, that's how knowledge was passed. Through repetition. Through mimicry. Through stories around the fire. The past encoded in 1,000 tiny moments. But there's more. Safety. When one sleeps, another watches. When one is injured, another carries. When predators attack, the group defends. In archaeological sites across Eurasia, we found elderly remains with healed injuries, broken bones, fused joints, arthritis. People who lived years after devastating injuries. How? Because someone fed them. Cleaned them. Carried them. Even then, humans chose compassion over efficiency. Because even the weak had value. Memory. Skills. Wisdom. And the group always came first. Now picture yourself again. Alone. You've managed a small fire. Found a root to chew. You're shivering under a ledge, trying to sleep. But you don't, because every rustle might be a predator. Every shadow a threat. You wake up 30 times. Your body never fully rests. Your thoughts spiral. You forget to eat. You forget to move. You grow weaker. Slower. Paranoid. And now you can't even trust your own mind. Because the human brain unravels in solitude. And out here, that unraveling is fatal. In group life, you don't need to know everything. Just something, and someone else knows the rest. You don't have to watch the fire, guard the camp, and hunt because others are doing those things too. And when you fall, someone picks you up. Not out of charity. Out of mutual need. Even spiritual survival, the sense of meaning, came from others. Cave paintings weren't solo art projects. They were rituals. Shared memory. Symbols layered across generations. They reminded you, you're part of a story. You matter. You belong. And belonging? That was more powerful than any spear. More nourishing than any meal. Because belief in each other kept people moving forward when everything else said stop. Still think you can make it alone? You can't, you won't, not here. Out here, nature doesn't care about courage. It rewards cooperation. And those who refused it, their bones are buried in the silence. So, if you want to live in this world, find a band. Find a group. Offer something, anything. A sharp eye, a strong back, a good story. Even laughter. And hold on to them like your life depends on it. Because it does. Storytelling was survival. The first human operating system. You sit beside a fire that isn't yours. It flickers, casting strange shapes on the walls. You don't understand the words being spoken. But the rhythm, the pauses, the hand movements, the wide eyes, those you understand. Because what's being shared isn't just a story, it's a map, a warning, a manual. You're watching the original human software spoken, sung, carved, remembered. A system that didn't need screens or keyboards. It needed only people. And it didn't just entertain. It kept them alive. Today, we see stories as luxury. Art. Culture. Something to unwind with after work. But in Paleolithic world, storytelling was survival code. Before writing, before books, before data, there were voices. And the things those voices carried, they were everything. You found a cave. Inside. Old red marks on stone. Swirls. Handprints, shapes. Animal outlines that seemed to dance in the firelight. Not random. Not decoration. That is a memory repository, an ancient textbook, a guide, a prayer. This is how they passed on what mattered most. Because back then, if you couldn't remember it, you couldn't survive it. Imagine teaching a child how to track game through footprints, how to know which clouds meant flood, which roots to boil, which birds flew south first. You could demonstrate it once, maybe twice. But one mistake, one lapse in memory, and the lesson ends in death. So they wrapped the truth in story. A tale about the fox who walked backward to trick hunters, a song about how thunder means the river will rise, a myth about a great eagle that cries when snow is coming. Suddenly, dry facts become unforgettable. Knowledge becomes sticky. It travels. It lives longer than any person. Cave paintings are not primitive doodles. They quote revisual language data. When archaeologists examine Paleolithic wall art, they notice astonishing detail, the seasonal thickness of reindeer fur, the wounded leg of a bison, the gathering patterns of birds. Wildlife biologists today can date a cave painting based on animal anatomy. That's how accurate the artists were. Not by chance, but by intention. They weren't just painting. They were encoding survival data. And this wasn't passive. It was performance. Storytelling was done by firelight. By elders. By those who had lived. The entire group listened. Not because it was fun. But because it was vital. These were systems for memory, tools for pattern recognition, strategies for dealing with a world too dangerous to face alone. Forget a story, you forget how to survive the winter. Misremember a line, you pick the wrong berry. Get bored during a ritual, you fail to notice the warning buried in its rhythm. And storytelling wasn't just fact, it was emotion. Humans use stories to remember how it felt to be hungry, how it hurt to lose someone, how it mattered when the rains came too early. That emotional memory made it stick. You didn't just learn what to do, you learned why. And that made all the difference. There were no pens, no paper, no libraries, so knowledge had to be alive, transmitted mouth to mouth, heart to heart, one generation to the next. And the more critical the knowledge, the more ritualized the telling. Music and rhythm played a key role. A pattern repeated in song was easier to remember than a long explanation. Children were taught through chants, dances, calls. Movement burned the knowledge deeper into muscle and brain. Songs about animal migration patterns, rhythmic dances to mimic predator stalking drums, echoing seasonal shifts. It wasn't entertainment. It was environmental awareness turned into art. And when it came to major transitions, birth, coming of age, death, they used myth to explain what couldn't be seen. These weren't bedtime stories. They were operating systems for the human mind. And because these stories travelled, they linked groups. You could walk into a different band's firelight, hear a version of a tale you knew and feel instantly connected. A common story meant shared values, shared fears, shared hopes. It meant you might trade food, share shelter, form alliances. Stories created trust. Trust created networks. Networks increased survival. Your modern brain loves stories. That's not a coincidence. It's evolution. You remember characters better than raw numbers. You follow arcs, not charts. You understand danger best when it comes with a face and a fate. That's not weakness. That's biology. That's 300,000 years of survival strategy written into your neurons. Today, stories live in books and screens. But back then, stories were survival infrastructure. They told you what plants to eat, when to migrate, who betrayed the group long ago, how to recognize danger in the eyes of an animal, what to do when someone dies. They created identity. They shaped action. They gave meaning to the suffering. And they reminded people that they were not just individuals, they were part of a continuum, part of a people, a lineage, a legacy. So now imagine again, you're sitting alone in the dark. No fire. No food. No plan. And worst of all, no stories. You don't know where you are. You don't know where to go. You have no names for the sounds in the night. No explanations for the stars above. Without stories, you are not human in the ancient sense. You are just an animal with memory lost and an outsider to your own species' knowledge. Our ancestors didn't pass on DNA alone. They passed on culture. Not because they were sentimental, but because without it their children would die. And every filet tale, every painted handprint, every whispered warning was a thread in the great tapestry of human survival. You're here today because they told each other stories, and they did not forget. The instruction manuals on the walls, cave paintings as survival guides. You duck into a cave, cold, damp, dark. Your fire is nearly dead. Your stomach aches with hunger. But as the sparks flicker against the stone walls, you see them. Not scratches. Not accidents. Messages. Reindeer, bison, a series of handprints. Comma lines, spirals. It's not art, it's a manual A field guide carved in shadow and ochre. You've just entered the first classroom on Earth, and your teachers, the people who refuse to forget. To modern eyes, cave paintings are beautiful. Primitive, emotional. Mysterious. But to Paleolithic people, they were survival codices painted not to be admired, but to be remembered. Passed down. Interpreted. Used. Because when life is on the edge, when knowledge dies with the body, you need a system that lives longer than memory, and pigment on stone that lasts tens of thousands of years. Lascaux. Chauvet. Altamira. El Castillo. Sites in France and Spain. In Indonesia. In Africa. In Australia. Across continents, cultures, millennia, the same instinct emerged. Paint what must be remembered. Record what must not be lost. And they did. Not with language. Not with numbers. But with form, colour and space. Because when you don't have written words, you write with what the earth gives you. Here's what we now know. Those animals on the walls, they weren't decoration. They were time-stamped records of movement, season and behaviour. When the reindeer's antlers were short, spring, when the bison had thick fur, winter, when certain birds appeared, migration season. Biologists today can track seasons and climate based on the traits shown in cave art. That's how specific these paintings were. They weren't about inspiration. They were about information. And this knowledge was layered. Look again. That bison. It's pierced with spears. That handprint. It's missing a finger. That spiral. It's placed next to water imagery. Every detail had a meaning. A spear placement showed the kill zone on an animal. A gesture warned of danger or marked a taboo. Repetition of animal types signaled abundance or scarcity. Lines radiating from a beast's head. Mating season. You aren't looking at a painting, you're reading a multi-sensory survival manual. Why paint underground? Because the cave preserved it. Sheltered from wind, rain, decay. Because the cave was sacred, a memory vault, a chamber of lessons, a place where fire and pigment met to create immortality. And because in the dark stories came alive. Flames flickering across stone dot paintings seemed to move, run, leap, roar. That wasn't entertainment dot. It was education, a 3D experience long before anyone built a classroom. We see art dot, they saw utility. What plants grow by the river? Paint a river dot. What animals pass during frost? Show them with thick coats dot, where are the good hunting grounds? Mark them with symbols only your people understand. But it wasn't just about what they painted dot. It was how. They made brushes from animal hair dot, blue pigment through the hollow bones dot, scratched with flint and fingers. Pigments came from crushed rock red ochre, manganese, charcoal dot. Some added fat or blood to make it stick. This was technology. It required preparation, knowledge, precision. And it worked dot. Some paintings are 30,000 to 40,000 years old, still vibrant, still legible. You scroll on a phone dot, they etched in stone and time. But who painted them? Not one person dot. Not one artist. Entire communities dot, groups across generations dot, elders guiding youth, hunters sharing insight, shamans embedding ritual. This was collaborative memory. It was owned by the group and offered to the future. That's why cave art is often found in deep chambers dot, hard to reach dot, not meant for tourists or trophies. They were initiation zones, ritual places, where knowledge was earned, not given freely. Symbols appear repeatedly across caves dot, zigzags, handprints. Were they warnings? Maps? Codes? We may never know their full meaning dot. But one thing is clear, they were deliberate. They meant something to the people who painted them. And perhaps that's the point dot, knowledge only works if it's passed on in a form that others will respect. And in a world with no alphabet, you need something more universal than words. Think of your life today dot, how much of it depends on instructions, recipes, maps, diagrams dot, tutorials, manuals. Now imagine losing all of it dot, no books dot, no teachers dot, no apps. You'd need a new way to pass on everything you know, and for our ancestors that meant caves. Those walls held medical insight like how to treat a wound, hunting zones, migration paths, spiritual stories, warnings of predator territories, lessons about mistakes. Because if one person forgot, others could still read the wall. Even today, we carry this instinct. Graffiti dot, murals dot, street. Art dot, cultural symbols dot, tattoos dot, logos. We still try to paint meaning where words fail, and it began in the dark with hands, ash and breath. Here's something incredible. DNA evidence shows that humans were painting before we even fully populated the continents. Before agriculture dot, before metal dot, before cities. We were already saying, remember this matters, don't forget. Because death comes for those who forget the past. And those who remembered, they thrived. So when you see a red bison on a cave wall, don't call it primitive dot, call it a triumph. A message that crossed 30,000 years and still says, look, learn, survive. You think we're advanced because we type dot, but these people painted with everything they had: blood, sweat, memory, firelight. And they knew what modern life forgets. That knowledge must live somewhere dot. That memory must be protected dot. That survival requires more than instinct. It requires intentional communication, no. Not noise dot, not chatter dot. But truth painted in flame and stone. You are smarter, but weaker. Modern strengths, Paleolithic weaknesses. You are the pinnacle of human evolution. The result of 300,000 years of survival, adaptation, and success. Your brain is larger than your ancestors. You're taller, better, fed, stronger in some ways, smarter in others. But if we dropped you right now into the Paleolithic world without tools, fire, clothing, or a group, you wouldn't survive a week. Why? Because your modern strengths have come at a cost. You are sharper but slower, taller, but clumsier, stronger, but only in theory. You're not evolved for survival, you're evolved for comfort. And in a world that does not care about comfort, you would be food, not predator. Let's talk about the brain first. Yes, it's true. Modern humans have better nutrition. We grow up taller, heavier, with larger skulls on average than our ancient relatives. But the difference is not cognitive potential. The brain structure of Homo sapiens hasn't changed much in the past 50,000 years. The change isn't in what we're born with, it's in how we use it. Today, your brain is a marvel of multitasking. It can scroll, message, answer emails, and navigate GPS simultaneously. But the Paleolithic world doesn't care if you can manage your inbox. It wants to know if you can smell rain before it falls. If you can hear the change in bird calls that signals a predator. If you can memorize the migration routes of elk. If you can distinguish 30 types of edible plants by leaf texture alone. Your brain wasn't raised for that. Theirs was. Here's the brutal truth. Modern humans outsource survival to apps. To devices. To experts. Need to eat, order in. Need shelter, rent it. Need to know if water is safe to drink. Ask Google. You've built an entire ecosystem that keeps you alive without demanding that you understand how. And now, thrown into the wilderness, you'd be running software on the wrong hardware. Instincts. Let's talk about those. Paleolithic humans didn't just have sharper instincts by chance. They were trained from birth. A child in a hunter-gatherer band learned by watching not cartoons or classes, but life and death. How to walk softly. How to read the wind. How to gut an animal with a sharpened flake. How to know the difference between a helpful root and a deadly one. That wasn't taught in school. It was absorbed, day after day. Hour after hour. Until it wasn't learning anymore, it was reflex. And you've been trained for a world of glowing screens and artificial light. For deadlines, not hunger. For traffic, not tigers. For navigating spreadsheets, not landscapes. Your mind is constantly pulled in 10 directions. Split focus. Short attention. Low situational awareness. In the wild, that isn't annoying, it's lethal. Let's talk physicality. Yes, you may be taller. Yes, you may lift more at the gym. But your ancestors didn't train for aesthetics. They trained by living, hauling wood. Climbing cliffs. Running barefoot. Carrying their food and their tools, their children, miles each day. Their bodies were functional machines, lean. Efficient. Resilient. And above all, adapted to their environment. Yours? Adapted to chairs. Shoes. Processed food. Air conditioning. And a shower when you get sore. Throw a modern person into the Paleolithic cold or blazing sun or punishing monsoon. They don't adjust. They break. Even your hands are different. Paleolithic people had stronger grips. Thicker fingers. Calloused palms from constant tool use and fire making. Your hands have scrolled for thousands of hours. They are not made for flint knapping, bow drilling, or skinning prey. One blister and you're done. One infection and it spreads. One mistake and you're limping through a world that won't wait for you to heal. But maybe worst of all, your relationship with time. Modern life is impatient. You expect instant results. Instant feedback. Instant fixes. But survival isn't fast. Fire takes hours to make from scratch. Hunting may take days. Even building a decent shelter can take an entire afternoon. Your ancestors knew this. They were trained to endure boredom, pain and repetition. You get restless waiting 2 minutes for a microwave to beep. Even the way you feel pain is different. Paleolithic people were used to discomfort. Cold nights, raw meat, bruises, infections. It wasn't ideal, it was expected. Pain was part of the process. Today, we avoid it at all costs. We medicate, cushion, anaesthetize. Nothing wrong with that. It's a sign of progress. But remove those modern supports and your threshold drops to 0. You're not weaker in will, you're just untrained in endurance. But wait, don't despair. Your brain still has the potential. The cognitive architecture that let your ancestors track herds, carve tools and invent language. It's still there. You're not hopeless. You're just misaligned. The real tragedy is this. Our ancestors needed 20 years to fully develop survival skills. You've spent 20 years building a life in a completely different system. That's not failure, it's divergence. You've evolved in a world that outsources hardship, that trades survival for stability. That values knowledge you can't use in a forest, but can use to build cities, rockets, vaccines. You're not worse. You're just optimized for a different game. Still, if you were dropped into that old world, you'd need to unlearn almost everything. Start again. Listen. Harder. Focus. Longer. Move. Slower. Think smaller. And most importantly, stay humble. Because arrogance gets people killed. Here's what you do have. A brain just as powerful. Greater long-term memory. A lifetime of problem-solving experience. The ability to observe, reflect, and adapt faster tools, if you're lucky enough to have any. What you don't have: survival instinct, environment awareness, physical endurance, pain tolerance, community connection, any meaningful knowledge of your surroundings. In short, you're a genius in the wrong arena. A marvel of evolution, stripped of context. But you can change that. Because what Paleolithic humans had they earned? Through pain. Through repetition. Through failure. And so can you. If you're willing to give up the illusion of control and start learning like your life depends on it, because out here it does. Adaptation takes time. Evolution doesn't happen overnight. You blink. You're barefoot on a savanna. The wind scrapes dry grass across your shins. The sun is already punishing. You're hungry. You're alone. And you are not adapted to any of it. Your brain is screaming, think, plan, move. But the truth is you're too late. Not because you're stupid. But because adaptation doesn't work on panic. Evolution doesn't sprint. It doesn't pivot. It crawls. The human species took hundreds of thousands of years to get this far. And you have minutes. We like to believe we're ready for anything. That our intelligence is enough. That brains can outmatch biology. But here's the brutal truth. You can't think your way out of evolution. And that's a problem when you've just woken up 50,000 years in the past. Because this world, it's not designed for your comfort. Or your logic. Or your cleverness. It's designed to punish the slow. The soft. The unadapted. Which, right now, is you. So how long does it actually take to adapt? Look at ancient humans. Homo habilis didn't suddenly invent tools one afternoon. It took millennia of trial and error flint, chipped again and again until sharp edges became routine. Fire wasn't tamed in a weekend. It was passed from lightning strikes, nurtured by accident, and eventually harnessed by generations who learned to read wood, wind, and spark. Even walking upright, that took millions of years of anatomical shifts, pelvis, spine, foot arches. And now You expect to match that by tonight? You don't adapt in a moment. You survive long enough to begin the process. But the wild doesn't wait. That's the real terror. Biology has a delay. Your body won't know how to manage this new world. It won't regulate temperature efficiently. It won't digest raw meat well. It won't recognize danger signs in plants or predators. The Paleolithic world doesn't care that you're clever. It cares if you're ready. And right now, you aren't. Meanwhile, the people who were born here, the ones your DNA descends from, they weren't superhuman. They were just trained by time. Generation after generation, they adapted. Their bodies adjusted to the climate. Their immune systems calibrated to local pathogens. Their instincts sharpened to track prey or flee predators. Their muscles remembered how to build shelters, set traps, carry loads. And their brains weren't just smart. They were focused. Because back then, distraction was death. Let's pause and define what adaptation really means. It's not a choice, it's a process. Adaptation happens at two speeds. Cultural adaptation passing on knowledge, skills, and habits. Biological adaptation. Slow genetic shifts that happen over generations. You don't have generations. You don't even have a village to pass down knowledge. What you have is a brain evolved for comfort, thrown into a world that demands precision, patience, and pain. You need to adapt faster than nature allows. That's where things get dangerous. Because panic leads to mistakes. Mistakes lead to injury. Injury leads to death. And unlike your ancestors, you don't know which mistake is fatal. Is that water clean? Is that root edible? Is that animal watching you or hunting you? Trial and error doesn't work here. Because every error ends the trial. So, how did early humans do it? They didn't just survive individually. They evolved collectively. They lived in groups. They passed down strategies. Every generation got a little better. Stronger. More efficient. More aware. If one person figured out a fire-starting technique, they taught it to others. And then those people taught their children. The knowledge stacked slowly over thousands of years. You have no one to learn from. You're a fresh spawn in a world of seasoned survivors. Let's imagine a timeline. It took hundreds of thousands of years to go from scavenger to hunter. It took tens of thousands more to create effective clothing. Shelter innovations like mammoth bone huts, maybe 20,000 years of refinement. Fire drills, 5,000 years of development. Language? No one's sure. But it evolved slowly from gesture to grunt to grammar. And that's just tools. Now consider emotional adaptation. Your ancestors learned to live with death. They buried their dead. They made rituals. They shared grief together by the fire. You're used to therapy. To talking things out. To calling a friend. But there's no phone here. No time for reflection. Just survival. And even that takes time. The irony is cruel. Your intelligence is your greatest weapon and also your greatest burden, because you know what you've lost. You remember what comfort feels like. What control feels like. That knowledge hurts more than ignorance. A Paleolithic child doesn't miss a mattress. But you do. And that grief slows you down. So what can you do? You can start small, observe, mimic, listen if you find others. Don't assume you know best. Assume you know nothing, because the Paleolithic world is not intuitive, it's not fair, it's not forgiving. It rewards patience. Discipline. Consistency. Qualities that modern life actively discourages. The truth? Adaptation is slow, but learning can be fast, if you live long enough to try. Modern humans still carry the same brain hardware, same hands, same lungs. What's missing is the training. And training starts with respect. Respect the wind, respect the dark, respect the fire, the hunger, the silence. Stop assuming you'll survive, start earning it. And maybe, just maybe after enough failures, enough scraped hands and empty stomachs, you'll start to change. Not your DNA, that takes millennia, but your instincts, your reflexes, your mind. That can adapt. If you live long enough. Because here's the secret. Paleolithic humans weren't built for that world either, Not at first. They became adapted by struggling inside it, just like you. The only question is, can you survive long enough to start evolving? The odds are against you. What the experts say, let's stop imagining for a second. Let's stop pretending this is just a fun survival game. You wake up 50,000 years ago, no gear, no group, no fire, no food, just you, and a planet designed to kill you. What are your actual chances? Slim. No, slimmer than that. Because while it's tempting to believe your intelligence or determination could save you, the experts say otherwise. Anthropologists, archaeologists, survival instructors. They've studied the Paleolithic world, some have even tried to live in it. And nearly all agree on one thing. You wouldn't last long. Let's start with survival experts. Real modern-day people who train others to live without technology, to build fires by friction, to craft stone tools, to find shelter using only natural materials. They spend years learning. And even then, most fail under real pressure. Take Les Stroud, Survivor Man. He's spent decades testing his limits in remote environments, with training, supplies, and a film crew nearby. And even he says that going into the wild with nothing, no knife, no fire starter, no tarp, is a near-death experience. Now remove the film crew, remove any gear, remove even the knowledge of what region you're in or what season it is. Now ask yourself again, can you survive? Ray Mears, another famed survivalist, put it this way. Primitive living isn't just difficult, it's dangerous. It's a full-time job just to stay warm, hydrated, and fed. And that's for someone who's trained for decades. You've trained for Uber Eats and Netflix. Now let's turn to anthropologists. People like Dr. Brianna Pobiner, part of the Smithsonian's Human Origins program. She studied early human diets, hunting methods, and survival strategies. According to her and her peers, early humans lived in highly adaptive, socially interdependent bands. No one lived alone, and no one survived for long without lifelong cultural knowledge passed down from elders. She explains, much of what made survival possible wasn't just individual skill, it was accumulated wisdom. You could be physically fit, you could be brave, but if you don't know how to recognize safe water, if you don't know which berries are edible, if you don't know what wind direction signals rain, you're dead. Let's get more specific. Dr. John Shea, a paleoanthropologist at Stony Brook University, studies stone tools made by our ancestors. He runs students through experiments, replicating tools, building shelters, tracking animals. These are students who are eager, well-fed, and well-read. Even with months of training, many can't even make a proper hand axe. A stone axe, literally the most basic piece of survival tech from 1.7 million years ago, takes weeks to learn, years to master. Now ask yourself, could you build one from memory using nothing but river rocks? Then there's fire. According to survival instructors at the Boulder Outdoor Survival School, even highly experienced students fail to make fire using primitive friction methods under stress. It's not just rubbing sticks together, it's knowing which wood combinations work. How dry your tinder must be. What shape your fireboard needs to be. How long to spin the spindle. What your bowstring tension should be. One mistake, no spark. One gust of wind, failure. And remember, you're tired, you're cold, you're scared. Fire doesn't care. It requires perfection. Experts at the University of Exeter conducted studies in experimental archaeology, asking students and researchers to recreate Paleolithic survival tasks, flint knapping, shelter building, hide tanning, hunting strategies. Their conclusion? It is extremely unlikely that a modern individual could spontaneously reproduce these technologies without instruction. Translation: you'd die before you figured it out. Even when modern people do spend years training to live primitively, they rely on backup systems, GPS, emergency radios, antibiotics. You have none of that. The truth is simple. Paleolithic life was high skill, high risk, and unforgiving. Modern life has made us incredibly adaptable to our world, but catastrophically unfit for theirs. Still not convinced? Let's play a little scenario game based on what experts suggest. Day 1. You wake up disoriented. It's already too hot. You have no shoes. You try to find water and drink from a stream. You swallow a parasite. Day 2. You're nauseous. You haven't eaten. You find berries. Some are toxic. Your body cramps. Your coordination drops. Day 3, you have diarrhea. Your energy is gone. You cut your foot on a stone. The wound festers. Day 4, you're dehydrated. Infected. Cold. And a hyena is following you. By day 5, your odds are almost zero. You see, it's not that survival is impossible. It's that you're too late to learn. The people who made it back then, they spent every day from birth learning not just how to survive, but how to thrive in that specific environment. You weren't raised for this. You weren't taught to memorize the sky, or feel the soil, or understand animal behavior by tracks alone. You were taught to Google it. But there's no Wi-Fi in the Upper Paleolithic. Even modern rewilding experiments, where people attempt to live with Paleolithic tools, show that success rates are dismal. A 2017 controlled survival simulation found that over 85% of participants with above-average wilderness training failed to sustain themselves for more than 10 days without modern support. And that was with training. You have none. You know what that means? The odds of survival for a totally untrained modern human might be less than 1%. But here's the important thing. This isn't about blaming modern humans. It's not about shaming comfort or mocking intelligence. It's about respecting what our ancestors accomplished. They didn't just wake up and make a fire. They didn't casually invent tools. They didn't guess which plants were edible. They worked. They experimented. They passed it on. That's why we're here. And that's why we shouldn't pretend we could step back into their world and survive. Because what they did wasn't primitive. It was genius under pressure. So what's the takeaway? That you're weak? No. That you're human. Modern humans are marvels of engineering, intellect, and culture. We've built skyscrapers, space stations, and quantum computers. But we've lost touch with the basics that built us. And while that doesn't make us failures, it does mean we need humility. Because the odds aren't just against us in a prehistoric world, they're screaming. And the fact that anyone, anywhere, ever survived long enough to pass their genes on, that's the real miracle. Why you exist at all. Look at your hands. Stretch your fingers. Feel your pulse. Now ask yourself, why are you here? Because against all odds, through ice and fire, hunger and war, predators, plagues, and the crushing weight of time, your ancestors survived. Every single one of them. From the first upright walkers scavenging marrow from a lion's kill, to the Paleolithic mother giving birth on cold cave floors, to the hunter navigating fog and cliff edge, to the child who ran fast enough to escape a leopard in the tall grass, they made it. And that lineage, that thread of struggle, of fire and blood and stone and hope ended up in you. You're not just a person. You are proof. Let's put this into perspective. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, have walked the earth for roughly 300,000 years. And for 99.9% of that time, life was not just hard, it was a daily fight against extinction. There were no safety nets, no antibiotics, no grocery stores, no hospitals, no governments, no mercy. Survival wasn't guaranteed, it wasn't even likely. And yet, somehow, they endured. Think about what they faced. Ice ages. Not a little snow, not a chilly breeze, but glacial sheets advancing across continents, seasons that lasted years, summers that felt like modern winters. During the last glacial maximum, temperatures plunged, shelter was rare, game was scarcer. And still, our ancestors adapted, they sewed hides into parkas, they followed the herds, they huddled in caves beside smoky fires, telling stories while the wind howled outside. They didn't just survive the Ice Age, they thrived in it, long enough to pass the torch. Now add in predators. Big cats with saber-toothed, wolves the size of bears, hyenas with bone-crushing jaws. You were never the apex predator, you were the snack. But humans fought back not with claws or fangs, but with cunning. They learned to track, to ambush, to strike with stone tools and coordinated packs. They learned to read shadows, to move silently, to climb, to hide, to flee. And they kept going. And then there were diseases. Long before cities, long before agriculture. Even in the Paleolithic world, bacteria and parasites hunted you from the inside out. One dirty cut, one bad sip of water, and your body could turn against itself. Infants died, mothers died, wounds festered, bones broke and healed crooked, if they healed at all. And yet, there were always enough survivors to carry the fire forward. That's not even counting the worst predator of all, other humans. Because cooperation built us, but conflict tested us. Groups raided, tribes, clashed, territory was fought for tooth and nail. And still, amid the chaos, your ancestors made alliances, found love, had children, they navigated betrayal and peace, war and reunion. And you, the product of all those gamblers, somehow made it here. Here's the crazy part. If just one ancestor in your lineage had failed, if one hunter hadn't come back from the mountain, if one child hadn't recovered from fever, if one mother had died in childbirth, you wouldn't be here. Your existence is a biological miracle, a chain of unbroken survival stretching back millions of years. It took 3.5 billion years of evolution. Millions of species rising and falling, hundreds of thousands of generations of humans, thousands of years of migration, innovation, and resilience, countless individual victories in the face of death, just to get to you. And you woke up this morning and made coffee. Let's get specific. Your ancestors crossed continents on foot. They survived volcanoes and earthquakes. They escaped floods, droughts, invasions. They made shelter out of trees. Clothes out of bones. Rituals out of fear. They carried language in stories. Wisdom in scars. Hope in lullabies whispered beside dying embers. Every time the world tried to end them, they came back stronger. That's your bloodline. That's your legacy. You're not descended from the strongest. You're descended from the most resourceful, the most adaptable, the most determined. Somewhere in your DNA are memories of how to build a fire, track prey, soothe a child, fight when cornered, heal with plants. You may not know how to use them anymore, but they're in you. Buried, not broken. Modern life makes it easy to forget this. We live in a world of concrete and screens. We don't hear the predators at night. We don't feel the wind clawing through bone. Our battles are different now, mental, emotional, existential. But the old world lives on inside us. And sometimes you feel it. The pull to the wild. The comfort of a campfire. The The instinct to run when something's wrong. Dot, the hair standing up on your neck. That's your ancestors whispering. We remember. So, what do you do with this knowledge? You honour it. You remember that every step you take was paved by 1,000 footsteps before you. Dot. That your comforts were bought with someone else's pain. Dot. That your freedom was earned in the fire of a harsher age. And when life feels hard, when you think you can't go on, remember this. Someone in your past kept walking when the cold made their teeth crack. Dot. Someone stayed alive when everything screamed, give up. Someone chose to believe in the next sunrise so you could see this one. You are a living victory, a breathing monument to survival, a survivor's dream made flesh. And you owe it to them not to be perfect, but to be grateful. To try. Dot. To learn. Dot. To face your own problems with a fraction of their courage. Because the story of human survival didn't end with them. Dot. It continues with you. The greatest story ever told is not in books or temples or ruins. It's in your bones. Dot. In your lungs. Dot. In your heartbeat. You are the final chapter in the next beginning. The fire didn't go out. It became you. Could you make it? Let's not sugarcoat it. Let's not romanticize. You wake up 50,000 years ago. Dot. No clothes. Dot. No fire. Dot. No weapons. Dot. No tribe. Just your modern body. Dot. Your modern brain. Dot. And a Paleolithic world that does not care who you are. So, could you survive? The answer? Probably not. Dot. And that's okay. Because you're not here to prove you could have made it. You're here because someone else already did. Let's break it down. You wouldn't have fire. Dot. No shelter. Dot. No tools. Dot. No survival instincts tuned to this world. The first 10 minutes would be terrifying. Dot. The first hour? Brutal. Dot. The first night? Possibly fatal. You'd be dehydrated, exposed, hunted, lost. You'd make all the wrong moves. Dot. Drink the wrong water. Dot. Step into the wrong bush. Dot. Underestimate the wrong animal. Your muscles aren't ready. Dot. Your senses aren't trained. Dot. Your stomach can't handle raw food. Dot. Your skin can't handle the sun. Dot. Your feet can't handle the rocks. And your mind? It would be trying to solve problems that require 10,000 years of ancestral knowledge. You'd be thinking in Google. Dot. But this world speaks in instincts. Still want to believe you'd figure it out. That's noble. It's human. But listen to the people who know. Dot. Archaeologists. Dot. Survival experts. Dot. Anthropologists. They'll tell you what we've already learned in this journey. Primitive life wasn't simple. Dot. It was specialized. Dot. Complex. Dot. Lethal. It took a lifetime to master. Dot. And even then, survival wasn't guaranteed. There were no tutorials. Dot. Only consequences. So, let's face it. You probably wouldn't make it. Not because you're weak. Dot. Not because you're lazy. Dot. Not because you're broken. But because you're modern. You were shaped for comfort. Dot. Not chaos. And everything that once made humans adaptable, the training, the teamwork, the generational wisdom, has been replaced by tools, systems, and technology. You live in a world where survival has become invisible. Dot. So when it's suddenly the only thing that matters, you're unarmed. But here's the twist. Dot. The quiet truth buried beneath all this doom. You don't have to make it, because someone already did. Thousands of them. Dot. Over thousands of years. Dot. They made fire. Dot. They found shelter. Dot. They fought off predators. Dot. They birthed children in caves. Dot. They buried their dead. Dot. They crossed frozen continents. They adapted. Dot. They endured. Dot. They learned and they passed it on. That's your legacy. You're not the survivor. Dot. You are descendant of survivors. You didn't face the mammoth. Dot. You didn't cross the ice. Dot. You didn't sleep in a tree to avoid leopards. But someone did. Dot. And because of them, you exist. So no, you don't need to prove you could have made it. Dot. You just need to remember that it took everything for someone else to get you here. Let's put this in context. Every one of your ancestors made it through childbirth, through injury, through famine, through cold snaps and heat waves, through predator attacks, infections, heartbreaks, tribal wars. The line of people that led to you, unbroken. One misstep, one lost fire, one unlucky bite, and your story ends before it begins. But it didn't. You're still here, reading this, breathing, wondering. Because the people who came before you refused to stop. They weren't superhuman, they were stubborn, smart, cooperative, tired, hungry, scared. But they didn't quit. That's your inheritance, Not a stone axe, but resilience. So what now? What do you do with that inheritance? Do you let it fade in comfort and convenience? Or do you honour it, not by abandoning modern life, but by remembering the struggle it took to build it? Because you're not separate from that past, you are that paste-volved. Every time you start a fire with a lighter, remember what it used to take. Every time you drink from a faucet, remember the rivers full of parasites. Every time you eat a meal, remember the hunger it took to make it possible. Every time you feel soft, safe, bored, remember that safety was paid for in blood and bone. That's what survival really gave us, gratitude. Gratitude for hot water, for shoes, for antibiotics, for music, for language, for stories, for civilization. For life that isn't a fight every second. So no, you probably wouldn't make it in their world. But that doesn't make you a failure, It makes you human. Your brain was built by their pain, Your comfort was earned by their suffering, Your existence was shaped by their fight. You are not weak. You are the result of every successful adaptation, every hard-won lesson, every parent that whispered to their child beside the fire, stay quiet, listen, learn, live. So, maybe the real question isn't, could you make it? But, how will you carry what they gave you? Will you waste it? Or will you use it? Will you forget them? Or will you remember? Because the past isn't asking you to go back. It's asking you to look back, to honor, to understand, to be grateful. You were never supposed to be a caveman, You were supposed to become something more, and you have. Now carry it forward, not with spears, but with awareness, Not with panic, but with purpose. Because while you may not make it in their world, they made it for you. So live like it matters.